talk about creating safe spaces in Castro.
Did somebody say recovery?
Let's talk about meetings, sex and recovery.
Sober sex? Did somebody say dick?
Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about... Welcome, you are at the CCC.
Where there are no outside issues with Bonnie Violet.
Anthony.
And Lulu.
And Kim.
Each week, we will provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of sobriety
And
or
our
recovery.
Absolutely. And our intention is to inspire and hold better spaces for people in recovery.
But before we do that, like, subscribe, and share, and also comment.
And comment.
How's everyone doing?
We're
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good week so far. I've been pretty productive. How about you, Kim? How have you been?
Yeah, I've been really good. I've been drinking a lot of gingerbread lattes
Oh, nice.
and having a lot of holiday cups. I love that.
I've been doing the creme brulee lattes.
Caramel brulee, yes.
Caramel brulee.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I woke up to an inch of snow this morning.
Oh.
An inch of snow?
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Where are you?
I'm in Idaho.
I know. Where in the world is Bonnie?
I'm in Boise, Idaho.
Nice. So it's cool. Wait, you're from Idaho, huh?
I am from Idaho.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm close to where I grew up, about 100 miles
Does
from
it
my
feel
hometown.
Does it feel good? Does it feel familiar? You know when you're in a space.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's great to be there. Yeah, you know how you all know I'm like hoping to get to spend some time with my family. There's a lot of stuff there, so for me, I'm still kind of trying to get myself in the game for that.
Right on. Okay.
So
Yeah, right on. So we jump in. Sorry, Kim, what were you going to say?
we should.
No.
Okay. So for those of you just channeling in or chiming in, we decided to continue our conversation from last week because there were so many awesome little gems that came from it, and we didn't get enough airtime for all of it. But I wanted to also circle back to why this all started. Lulu, do you want to tell us how it all started? How did we get here?
Well, jump in. When you can. So basically, we started having a conversation about family. Like were you talking about the conversation?
Yeah. Relationship.
So we started talking about family and our relationship to people in our family or whatever. And in that, the conversation kind of found its way to relationships and the types of relationships, especially for queer people. And we were thinking, oh man, there's so much more. There's some, there's a lot of meat to this. And so we had just decided, hey, let's talk about relationships. And because I think it's important, like when you're talking about family, when you're talking about relationships, they don't all look the same. They don't all. There's not a prescription for what a relationship is. But we want to talk about. I guess that's where the topic, chemistry or formula.
Right. And we're wanting to focus really on like those partners, those lovers, those boyfriends, girlfriends, they friends, spouses, kind of the romantic relationships, right?
Absolutely.
The sexual ideals.
Sexual or just romantic in any way, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
sexual and romantic ideals. Yeah. And maybe more specifically talking about relationship formation. So be it relationships that are formed around polyamory or open relationships or thruples or people who are asexual, right?
What do you label it if you're not getting any? Like
Dry.
Ooh, dry. I think that's the word.
Isn't it anorexic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
like if you're trying to, I mean, if you're just not getting any, not like it's like you're like you want it, but you're just keeping yourself from it.
If you're wanting and you're not getting it, it's like that's not thirsty, is it?
No.
Oh.
I think that's just bad luck.
I mean, I think you can be thirsty and still get it. So
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, again,
Thirsty
something
people
that
get it,
like something that I
actually.
shared. Like something that I shared last time. It's like wanting something but not going to the right place to get it. Like wanting it from whatever, and because I think one of the challenges is being realistic about what is there for you. Like I was in a situation or scenario last night where a guy like okay, so I was at a sex club,
Yeah.
and the guy sent me a message on one of the sites, and he was upset because he said I was being rude, and I don't even recall any connection or whatever. He eventually ended up blocking me, but I was thinking to myself, and I told a friend of mine there, like the same number of guys that actually are interested almost are not interested, and I think that in a lot of situation scenarios, you, especially with that, if you're not okay with the fact that some people are just not into you,
Mhm.
then you are going to have a problem.
Yeah,
You know?
the goal isn't to get everybody.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I
Well,
mean,
yes, it is.
maybe.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's part of like maturation, right?
Yeah.
The thing that's really hard to deal with. Like, not everybody you want's going to want you, and
Mm.
not everybody that wants you, you're going to want.
And also, like I said before, not every relationship is going to look like what you think that relationship is supposed to look like.
Mm.
It doesn't negate or make it not a relationship, or make it not what's a good word for yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I was just thinking of, because I wasn't listening, what I was just thinking of was, and not every relationship is worth pursuing, right? And not everyone you're attracted to is worth being with, right?
Mm.
There's just so many different variables involved there.
Exactly.
Harsh.
It's
Ouch.
sounds like math.
I remember the last time I was dating these 3 people, and I liked one of them, and I didn't really like the other ones, but I was still dating them. And then I told the one that I liked, well, I kind of like you, but I'm not sure like where this is going to go. And they weren't feeling it.
Oh,
So then I
Mm.
was like, this is just too much trouble. I'm not going to date anybody for a while. But like it's weird. It's like, do you think you could have a relationship without putting in a lot of work?
oof.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, that hasn't been my experience, but I think though, like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that it has to be that difficult. I haven't had that sort of like relationship with like a lover or whatever, but I have had friendships that are easy.
Yeah.
And so I don't see why I couldn't have a romantic relationship that was easy as well. And knowing, and I think the things that make those great is that we're both coming at it. We're both putting our energy toward it, and we're coming at it like to be together, I think. So I think, as long as we're not bringing in our own baggage, or, I mean, as long as we're all on the same page, I think it could probably be fairly easy, I guess.
Isn't that if both individuals have already done some work leading to, like you're saying, because
Mhm.
like some work is required, and like I was thinking when you were saying doing the work, that can sound like tedious or whatever. That can sound like a lot, but doing the work sometimes is just communication.
Mhm.
It's just kind of consideration, things of that nature, and that some people don't know how to do. And I was thinking, if you can, yeah, I've had a lot of relationships that you don't have to do the work. Those are superficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Mhm.
because I have people in my life where we go shopping together or we kiki. We don't have to go deep. It doesn't have to be tough.
Right.
So yeah, you can have relationships like that. But if you, I think for what we're talking about, I feel like
Well,
that. Go ahead.
yeah, I guess for me, when I think about doing the work, I feel like that's like you're working on something. Whereas I feel like if you're in a good relationship, you're in good communication, you're being open, you're being honest, all those sorts of things. So I don't feel like that's work. Like that's just how healthy people relate to each other.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel like doing the work feels more like at least for me, it's about fixing something or building something, but maybe it's one and the same.
What one were you going to say something, Kim?
Go ahead.
One of the things that I really appreciate that my best friend says, she says, every relationship, there are going to be parts of it that work out, and sometimes the way you should choose a relationship is not by the things that work, but by the problems you're willing to have with someone. Right?
Mhm.
You're always going to have some type of issues in a relationship. Have you ever heard of like the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, where basically nothing can ever this is kind of like this is a version of the idea, but at the very most anyone is ever going to fulfill you is 80% of the time, and there's always going to be that 20% that they are not able to fulfill, right?
Mm.
And so sometimes picking a partner might be about what is that 20% that you're willing to go without, right? Is the sex bad? Is that your 20%? Is the communication bad? Is that your 20%? Are they not the most attractive person? Is that the 20%? So there's always going to be some level of work that you have to do.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Because like for me, I can't. I mean, and I think I don't know anything about all humans, but I'm thinking like humans are like not exactly. We can't share each other's thoughts, or we can't share each other's exact like desires. So we all have our individual tastes and needs, and I know I can't always be present 100% of the time for someone else. So I think that implies like if you have an intimate relationship and you're coupled with someone, that it's gonna be a little bit of work because humans aren't built like that naturally.
Right. It's kind of like going to a different country. You're going to have to learn the language. You're going to have to learn the culture, right? Like I know personally that the assumption that just because I like someone, things are going to work out or the communication is going to flow, you know, that's come around to bite me in the ass because people have their triggers. You know, there are all kinds of unspoken things happening underneath the surface. So my question then to the group is, how do you start? How do you start to decide what type of relationship formation works for you? How do you start looking for partners?
I almost feel like you have to the only way to start is to start. I feel like a big part of this is taking some risk, meaning like, okay, so I would not have known like I'm saying take risk, and I'm not taking risk. Yeah, but you know how people go on a bunch of dates and like I say you got to kiss a bunch of frogs, try a bunch of things. I don't know. It's like for me, I'd like to surround myself with folks who are kind of like acting or who have behaviors that I think kind of are dear and important, you know. And yeah, like I said, I think that it's just a matter of kind of stepping out and figuring it out and getting to know people. And yeah,
I think it's helpful to be clear on what it is that what you want, or if you're open to whatever, to kind of talk about that. Because like I mean I know some pitfalls. You know, the most recent relationship I had, I remember we met, it was right after I moved to San Francisco, and he was like, I was like, I just got to San Francisco. Like, I'm like, I want to be polyamorous, or I want to have like, I want to do the San Francisco way, right? And the first guy I met was like, I'm looking for a partner. Like, I want to be monogamous and be with someone. And we both expressed what we were looking for, and then moved on in a relationship. Like, but we didn't talk about like, you know, like, so we both were walking forward thinking we were in the relationship that we said we wanted. And let's just say, long story short, it did kind of blow up in my face, but because, you know, I mean, it wasn't compatible through time, because there's two different ways that, you know, things are playing out for each of us in that scenario.
Well, how did you know you wanted to be in a polyamorous relationship?
yeah.
Well, you know, I think for me, like, you know, like because I want to be able to be like honest. I haven't always been the most honest in relationships, especially prior to getting sober. You know, many times I didn't know what I was feeling. If what I was feeling I didn't think was appropriate, I couldn't share that with the partner. You know, I think I really struggled with really being honest with a partner in the way that I think is important. Like, I also stayed with a partner even though I didn't want to, and I slept with other people because that's what I want to, and then that kind of like wasn't part of the deal. You know what I mean? And part of the problem is that I wasn't willing to say, you know what, I'm not feeling this anymore before moving on to a different like situation. And so for me, I would much rather just have honesty in a relationship. You know, I've had partners who've cheated on me, I've cheated on people, and it's like, and I've had different philosophies where people think you don't talk about it. And I think for me, I've just had so many relationships that the communication wasn't well and it wasn't clear. And I used to think I'd be too jealous, or, you know, those sorts of things. But I think I'm now in a place that I could handle having many loves. And I'm excited about having the conversations around some of the weird feelings, or the jealousies that might come up, or you know, any of that sort of stuff, like, and to have an opportunity to talk about it, it just kind of excites me a little bit.
Yeah, I have a friend who says there's nothing more invigorating than honesty. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ideally, I want to date a couple. Like, I would like to join a couple and become a throuple. But I did that in Chicago for a while, unofficially for a few years, and I loved it.
Well, no, I was thinking about the challenges of joining a throuple already in progress or a couple.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
yeah. I
it
forgot.
can be challenging because, a lot of the times in those situations, the couples, in some situations, the couples are like, they just haven't broke up yet. Or they're having some sort of problems. And so they're bringing somebody else in to kind of try to fix that, and it can blow up. Or like the couple that I got with, they were very comfortable with who they were. I actually hooked up with one of them, and afterwards he was like, "Oh my God, my husband would love you." And I'm like, "What?" Like, and do you ever like play with couples? I was like, yeah. Like, I would love to. It's hard to make it happen. And so we, and that started like a 3 to 4 year kind of like regular thing. And, we'd either be just me and the original guy, or we'd be in the couple, through all that time.
How did that end?
Beautiful. I mean, it was great until I moved away,
Oh.
I think if I was still there would probably be some, there's a good chance it could still be happening or something.
It would seem to me like anything that you do, there's a need like to continually take your temperature in it,
Mm,
being like, is this right for me? Is this right for me? Because like I know that you've done work to get yourself to a place where you understand that's what you're into.
mm-hmm,
Like the original question is like, how do you know? How do you get
mm,
there? Because I didn't get off the bus, literally
right.
get off the bus and say, I want to be it. I want to be it. But for me, it has been a process because I'm a late bloomer. Like
Mm,
I didn't come out as gay until I was 28, and I was a virgin until I was 25. Since I've since made up, and it wasn't religion, it wasn't anything. It was just I was a typical Virgo. I will always kind of I just it just wasn't what I needed at the time. I didn't feel any pressure or anything, but as far as relationship goes, and I'm talking about love relationships, like when I got sober, there's all this time when I was thinking, I gotta be in a relationship, I gotta be in a relationship, even after doing all the work and everything. And
mm-hmm,
then I told myself, you know what, you need to be patient with you because like it's still trying to figure me out. But I put my foot out a few times and I realized that I'm just not interested.
mm,
And like for me, I love sex and hook and connection like that or whatever. And every now and then I really like to be able to cuddle, but I also want you to go after we're done cuddling. And so
mm,
I have to pay attention to that. I can't just because I want this doesn't mean I can. So for me, that's why like I'm trying to be realistic about it. I know that it's not always going to be this way. It may change.
mm-hmm.
I'm open
Yeah.
to it because maybe it's just that I haven't met that person who is going to kind of take me, but whatever.
Yeah, I think about, so for me, I've certainly have been in, well, I've been in open relationships, and one of the things that I've often had to deal with, even whether the relationship is open or not, is my jealousy. So one of the things that I've heard a lot is that Puerto Rican men are known for being jealous, and that is certainly the case for me. And I have a workbook that I go through that I try to work through my jealousy. I've taken it to therapy. And so sometimes I think that an open relationship couldn't work for me, but it wasn't until, and it didn't even occur to me that that was an option for me until I started doing step work and I got sober, because one of the things that kept coming up on my fourth step was that I cheated and that I lied. To your point about being honest, Bonnie Violet, is that I cheated and I lied. And my sponsor at the time said to me, well, Anthony, maybe you're not a monogamous person. There's no reason you could have had all the sex you wanted without hurting somebody else's feelings. And so that was the first time that idea was posed to me. One of the things I struggle with now, though, is what is it that I'm getting from having sex? So for example, I maybe it's because I'm getting older, but I have a much harder time now separating my emotional self from my sexual self. Like I can't separate those things, or at least those things are much more connected for me these days. And
Right.
I think part of that might be because I don't know, maybe I'm in a place in my life now where, I've been in therapy long enough, I've been in recovery long enough where maybe I can now handle having the feelings that I do right?
Mm.
And one of the things that I noticed that sex did for me in the past is like sex can sometimes, at least for me, I'll have sex with someone, and because of the way, you know, our chemistry works, I feel bonded to this other person, but there's literally no context for that bond. It's just that we fucked, it was good, there was oxytocin, you know what I mean? There were all these things that felt like we were connected, but we were not compatible. We just had, it just felt like it was.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that's changed for me, and I hear so many people talk about how like hooking up or like that sort of thing is not like an intimate sort of thing. And like you said, like getting older, like I'm more emotionally connected. I don't have to disconnect my emotions or my feelings to have a hookup with somebody I just met, you know, and I can honor that one-time hookup sort of situation in the same way as if I was in like a really serious, like, you know, like they're all relationships, and they're intimate relationships. You know, I'm allowing somebody into me, whether it's their body parts or their spirit or their words. Like that's a big deal. Like I'm taking them on, and you know, I'm sober, I'm a spiritual person, so I'm a lot more sensitive to what that person is bringing to the table beyond just their semen, you know.
Yeah, I hear that. I think there was a thought bubble above all of our heads. I definitely hear that. And I think one of the things that I struggle with, I was actually having this conversation on my way here, is so I met this guy years ago, and one of the things he said to me he was a straight guy, and it was semi-problematic, but hear me out. So one of the things he said was that he believes that the reason why gay men are promiscuous, I'm quoting this man, this is not my idea. He said the reason why he thinks gay men are promiscuous is because when we were younger, we were denied brotherhood, either because we denied it to ourselves or because, you know, the context that we were in denied it to us. And so really our search for community and connection or brotherhood, we seek it through sex. And now we can tweeze that out and however we want, but I definitely have noticed for myself that there have been moments where I have looked to sex or I've looked to relationships to have that feeling of connection. And so what I'm trying to land on here is that there is something about it being ephemeral or short-lived that doesn't sit well with me. And I don't know if that's because, I mean, I'm so back and forth about this because I didn't even realize I had a lot of shame about sex. You know what I mean? That I was still carrying around this like internalized homophobia from when I was a kid. And so, yeah. So now, you know, I don't know how I feel about these like short-lived experiences that I've had with people. Yeah, sometimes I don't know if this is healthy for me. I don't know if it's healthy for them. I don't know if it's aligned with what I want for myself long-term.
I tell you what is healthy, thinking about it. Thinking about it, because like for the longest time, you know, I was a zombie participating in it. I was like, when I was in my active addiction, I obviously, like I said earlier, it's like I was a late bloomer. So I told myself the story. I created this narrative, like I'm living the best life and I'm free because I'm having the kind of sex that I want to have, which is not true. Basically, I was acting based on my need, based on the drugs and the alcohol I was using, and I was selling myself short. And one of the gifts of recovery was I had to put it on hold for a moment and do some work around who I am and what it is that I want. And like where you're at, Bonnie, getting to a place where finally I know, you know, there's a part of me that wants it, but there's a larger part that doesn't want it. And I need to honor that larger part that doesn't want it. And I'm no longer like bound by something else. I'm doing what I want to do, and getting to a place where and you were talking about earlier before, and I think I had lost my thought. In my sexual idea, I always joke and say, I want to feel dirty doing, don't want to feel dirty after. And I do believe that every experience I have, like hookup or whatever, I can bring the best parts of me. I can bring God into that experience.
Yeah.
And I can have that connection and honor it for what it is. And when I leave it, and I'm not, it doesn't deplete me.
Right.
It's something that kind of adds to who I am, you know?
Yeah. And I think part of that is because you're probably clear as is to what you want, and what that is for you and what it's not. I think sometimes when we're not really sure, that's when we end up like doing these other things, and then we're like, oh, that doesn't fit, that doesn't fit, that doesn't fit. So I mean, I think in hearing what you're saying, Anthony, I think it's great. You're like, this isn't for me, you know. I know that my lifestyle, my sexual lifestyle has changed over and over. And for me, I really try not to label any of my sexual behavior in the past as bad or unhealthy. Like it was serving something for me at some point in time, especially I think in recovery. I can really look at it and get clear about that. And so I think for me, I do have to say, like, okay, if I'm doing this like hookup thing, you know, that is taking energy. It is doing these things. Is it taking me away from this other thing I'd like to have too? And that's kind of where I'm at right now too. It's just like I was in those relationships of sex and hooking up and, you know, that sort of thing. And I want more of the affection and the touch and the things like that. And I might need to let go of that in order to have this other experience. And it doesn't mean that you know, like the other one was bad or anything like that. It's just like I just have to be really clear on what it is that I want, and then to kind of, you know, be able to go get it from where I can actually get it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, one of the things that I do when I've worked with patients who are going through breakups is, and I've done this myself, is you having the other person sit down and write down what their values are. What are the things you value? What are the feelings that you want to have? Because that can be a really grounding experience. And I think that's a really good place to start, you know, when you start dating, is understanding when you're going into, you know, out there and you're hopping on an app or you're meeting up with someone, is being very clear about what your non-negotiables are, you know?
People lie all the time.
Yeah, people do lie all the time.
Right.
But
Especially people in rooms, I think.
yeah, for sure.
Well, what,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, what is true, or what are good signs that you're in a great relationship? Like in all the types of relationships, whether it's polyamorous, hookup, you're getting married, like what are some of the signs to tell you, or that you look for, or that kind of affirm for you that you're in the relationship that you want to be in?
Joy.
Joy.
Like happy or fun, you know what I mean? Has to be
Mhm.
fun, at least sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is going to sound weird, but freedom. Because it's like, I think that any relationship, like if I feel like I have to tiptoe around anything, if I don't feel like I can bring my true authentic self to you, as messy, flawed, and not have you kind of be affected, because there's some conversations I just can't have with some of my friends, you know, and in fact, and that's like, whoa, maybe there's something to that. Because we need to, if we're friends, we need to be able to kind of talk about things, work through it. I can't have kind of throw me away as a result of me not being perfect, because I already struggle with this idea that I'm not enough. I don't need you to reinforce that idea.
Right.
That's wonderful. Yeah. You're reminding me of this is such a great question. And I love what Eric said about this last week. Eric said, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but they said that a good relationship is you have two people who realize that they're both works in progress, and they're trying, right? Like they're coming into it trying. One of the things that I've started to do recently is, well, actually, and to answer the question, which is related to this, is I know when I am in a good relationship, and this has happened exclusively in friendships, is when I feel like I can bring my entire self, and it's cool. You know, I'm not trying to censor myself. I'm not trying to be anything other than who I am. And I feel like I'm being celebrated. You know, that's one of the reasons why I knew my last relationship wasn't good for me, because my former partner would criticize me for things that I really loved about myself. And there were things that have taken me such a long time to accept about myself. And he would regularly criticize me about them. And so, and I let it happen for such a long time because I grew up with that, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until like I sat down and I was thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, how did I go back to disliking these things about myself when, you know, I really enjoyed them. Yeah. How do you know, one of the questions, you know, related to this, one of the questions you asked last week, Lulu, is how do you get yourself to stop being attracted to drama, right?
Practice.
Can you say more, Kim?
Yeah.
I think you have to practice.
Well, and
Not be attracted to, I mean, at least for me, I wasn't attracted to people who weren't kind of a little bit of a mess. Practice like giving people chances, but I kind of didn't really think, you know, anything of in the beginning. And so it was like practice, just like doing anything. I think it takes some work. If you want something that's more than just what you're seeing superficially, I think it's going to be like you have to invest a little bit of time to get to know someone.
Right. Well,
in my case.
mhm. Well, and let it start with me, right? I mean, I think if you don't want to be attracted to drama, don't be dramatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Attracts like, you know? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
stop
all
being dramatic and you won't get dramatic people in your life.
Yeah.
Like, I think, Lewis, you've talked about that a little bit, you know, just in friendships and stuff. I think,
No, absolutely. Yeah, I've had a lot of therapy. I've had a lot of therapy through these sessions. But yeah, it's like I think that the longer you're working on you, the more that you're doing to kind of be your better self, your tolerance level for bullshit, you know, like
Right.
I'm sensitive to it. And so I get, you know, now that I'm closer to a place where I believe I'm enough or whatever, and that I deserve, then what I try to do is like when I find myself in situations like with these friendships where it's not what I need, and I talk to my sponsors about this. It's like I want to find a loving way
It's hard.
to step away from it,
Mm.
not judge the other person because somebody else is patient with me.
Right.
You know, when I was there, you know, but to kind of see it for what it is,
Right.
and realize that the onus or the responsibility is my own.
Mhm.
And I, you know, it's kind of like what we do in recovery period. We take responsibility for our part.
Right.
And yeah, it's
Well,
a tough-
It's hard to do. I think recently I had someone that I really, really like and admire, and they reached out like they wanted to be friends or whatever. And, you know, I could just tell from the interactions we were having that this was going to be a lot of work. And
Yeah.
I just don't have to do that with my friends anymore. I just don't. It's not a lot of work. Like
right.
they're okay on their own and I'm okay. And we don't need to be like, I don't know. It's just not as
Right.
much work. And it was really difficult to have to like, because I want to be really, I want to be engaged with this person, but I just don't have space in my life for that.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to communicate that to someone. I mean, I didn't have to say it like that, but I
Yeah.
mean, it was hard to like set a boundary.
you said it before, practice. I'm
It's
sorry.
Yeah.
practice.
You
It's
said
just
practice because
practice.
I think the more times, like it's uncomfortable in the beginning when you communicate to someone, yeah, this is not going to work.
Right.
But the more that you do it, and it becomes, it's almost, you make it, it's like second nature. It makes it, you normalize taking care of yourself. Because I think that the trauma that we've gone through, I think that we collectively in recovery have a problem feeling like we get to, we can tell people that we're not accepting this anymore, you know, or that, you know, this is
Yeah.
how I want my space. It's like, or I don't want to speak. I throw in collectively, but what I'm saying for myself, period. Like there was a long time where I was just like, yeah, you know, with what I've gone through, I don't deserve to, and that's nonsense.
Right. One of the things I was thinking of is we could start to normalize differences, right? That just because we have our differences doesn't mean we have to walk away with resentments. And you know, this is actually to your earlier point too, Lulu, is about I've been thinking about, well, how will I know when I'm ready to start dating again? And one of the thoughts that I've had is when I'm no longer angry, when I can look at my ex and think and no longer be angry. Because, you know, right now I'm still hurt. I'm still angry. I'm still fucking replaying shit in my mind. And I don't want to have that, right? Because when I think about kind of in the grander scheme of things, I'm like, you know what? He didn't do anything wrong. You know, we were just two people in a relationship trying to make it work and it didn't work, you know? And that's just kind of the price of admissions. But it's so much work to walk away and think, you know what, man, you did your best. I did my best. And never mind like the ways that we hurt each other, never mind our differences, you know, I wish you well. And that is so hard, you know? And for me, it's so hard because, you know, I just like, I feel it so deeply, you know, and sometimes I have to ask myself, you know, what part of this is mine? What part of this is his? And I think that also translates to when you're dating, you know, am I not giving this person a chance because of some shit I'm hung up on? Or, you know, is this person worth dating? You know, just the other day, I actually had someone in the program tell me that they know I'm not dating, right? And they said, you know, if you, when you're dating, if you're ever open to us kind of like hanging out and seeing if things would work out between us, that they would be open to that. And immediately I thought to myself, there was something instinctual that I was like, actually, you know what? I've had this experience enough where I know this isn't going to work.
Mhm.
Right. And so that leads me to where I wanted to land with that, which is, and how can we, have those differences, and how can we say no and be kind, and like
Mhm.
preserve people's humanity
Right.
instead of walking all over them.
I think that's
Well,
the boundary.
yeah.
We got to get used to setting boundaries.
Well,
think-
and I think,
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
I think if we're like in our right place spiritually and into our intuition, we're going to be able to respond in a way that is kind and with grace and that is well. I mean, and in order to do that, we have to be away from like our own hurt or our judgments or whatever. And I think sometimes those things can be at play when we don't even know, and they start creating this rigid ideal. Like how when you hear people like they put together their personal profiles and they're like, I need somebody who's trustworthy and who's like all this crap that's like a no-brainer. And and it's actually still coming from a place of like that fucker who lied to me the last relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think those are the things that we have to really check in with ourselves. Am I still a bitter Betty? Or am I really just in a healthy place? And I know that, picking up this type of relationship isn't good for me right now. And I think that's something that, I think it just takes practice, as Kim keeps saying. And I think also just being able to get to a space to where you can trust yourself and trust your intuition. So I don't know, just so actually where it's coming from. And it's okay if it's coming from a place of pain or like whatever, just like be aware of it.
I have a theory about this. I think that a lot of, and I realize we're close to time, so I'll try to keep this brief, is a lot of what I think people do is their concept of love is based on like on a negative. It's all about the things that they didn't want to experience.
Mhm.
To your point again, Bonnie Violet, it's like in this last relationship, I was lied to. So I know I don't want to be lied to. So I need you to be honest. In this last relationship, we weren't fucking enough. So I know that in this next relationship, I need us to fuck all the time. You're not right. And so their concept of love is based on its absence.
Yeah.
And I think that the transition that would be helpful, at least it has been for me, is to have your concept of love based on the presence of love. And so you have to change what you're looking for, right? When are those moments you feel connected? When are those moments where you feel seen and heard?
I wanted to say, like, when to what Bonnie was saying, when you are in a healthy place with regards to this, and you understand that out of respect for you and obviously the person who might be interested in you, but not, the way I respect you is by being honest. Like, because if I'm so concerned with how you might feel that I might date you for 10 years, no,
Then you need Alan.
you don't. You're like,
Right.
there's a point in time where you try to do it with as much grace as possible. Unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't help, and you have to go a little harder or very kind of harsh with it, and you have to do it and turn it over. But if you try to be thoughtful with it, then that's all you can do.
Your side of the street is clean.
Yes, exactly. Because other than that, it's like I can't worry about what you're thinking about after I tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's so true.
Right on. It's like, oh my God, we had another wonderful conversation today about,
We did.
yeah, and we may go deeper next week. But
Oh, I like the sound of that.
I know exactly.
It's turned into a relationship podcast.
I know. You know what? It's like, if you've got any thoughts or whatever, by all means. So yeah, you can always reach me at on the Instagram at LouieLou86.
And you can find me on all the socials at A Queer Chaplain.
And our compadres are just still.
And you can find me on Christian Mingle. I kid. But I do want to encourage people, if you're listening in, if any of this resonates with you, if you have an idea of topics you want us to cover, hit us up at podcast@castrocountryclub.org. So that's podcast@castrocountryclub.org. We had a couple things that were sent to us this past week that we didn't get to today. So maybe we will actually probably take this into the coming week. But yeah, definitely hit us up. We'd like to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Just come to mascara.
Well,
If you're in San Francisco.
If you're in San Francisco. So I just want to also remind everybody that the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community in the heart of the Castro District in San Francisco, California. We endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. And you will find more information at castrocountryclub.org. And they're working on the website, so it's going to be super exciting.
Yeehaw. And you can leave us a voicemail via our speak pipe. In the link in the description.
Exactly. And look for us wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, they're there. It's like we want it. Yeah.
We're live each week at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at the Castro Country Club's Facebook or YouTube channels.
And please don't forget to like, share, comment,
Ding that bell.
Ding the bell.
Yeah,
exactly.
share with your enemies.
Exactly.
Put it anywhere.
Your sponsor, your sponsees, your drug dealer, old drug dealer, right?
Old behavior.
Exactly.
Right. Well, have a great week, everyone.
We love you. See ya.
Bye.